Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for a session on safeguarding your business from unpredictable events. My name is Lee and I'll be your presenter this evening. So just take a moment, if you grab a cup of tea if you need and settle in. There will be a replay of this session which is available through wonderful people at Melbourne Innovation Centre. So if you have to leave the room for any reasons, please just know that you can come back to it and get this information again, or if there was something that you missed during this session, you can get the replay and hear it. Anyway, without further ado, I know we're all very, very busy people and it's a Wednesday night. It's a bit cool out here in Victorian autumn, so let's kick it off. So I just wanted to touch on something which is what brings us here today. You are brought here today by the ASBAS Digital Solutions Program. You probably already know a little bit about this program because you've had to register through the program to have access to this webinar. But in short, it's a digital advisory service which provides direct education and mentorship from digital experts like myself to assist small businesses like you to build your digital capability. Beyond digital capability, ASBAS provides general business mentoring, marketing support. There's a whole array of capabilities, as well as some wellbeing programs coming up in the coming months, so keep your eye on that. If you are registered, you are eligible for a range of workshops, webinars and online materials such as this, and up to 4 hours of add-on paid mentoring. So it's 2 hours for $25, and that is subject to availability. If you haven't taken up the mentoring opportunity, I highly suggest you do, because it is an incredible program, really worthwhile for small businesses in Victoria. You get access to great talent who can help triage individual problems or help with more general planning, whatever it is that you have, well worth it. So jump on board. You'll have to register through the Melbourne Innovation website for that. About myself, my name is Lee Sandwith, and I'm a business and brand strategist with pretty strong digital expertise. I'm the managing director of the Good Hands, and we are I guess the easiest way to say is we're a sort of a boutique consultancy dealing with marketing, brand, technology, and business. We're also, my business partner and I are both mentors through the ASBAS Digital Mentoring Program, and what we try and offer is customizable mentoring to help you in your business. So it's no one size fits all. You come to us with a problem, we'll try and work through that. Me, I've had 20+ years professional experience in government, tech, corporate, creative sectors, retail, you name it. I've had a very distinct hybrid career of lots of places that I've worked and have expertise in lots of it. And now, as I've gotten a bit older, I'm able to synthesize that. So I have a good lens on what the small business ecosystem is like. So without further ado, let's talk about safeguarding our business. And I just want to talk a little bit about the types of things that we should plan for in our business. If 2020 taught us anything, is that the unpredictable can and will happen. I was discussing this with a colleague just a little bit earlier, which is that we understand today that in Australia we have a considerable delay with our vaccination rollout. So the likelihood of us having rolling lockdowns is considerable. And we're very fortunate to live in Australia, which is an island, but with hotel quarantine programs not being 100% foolproof, there is the possibility that we may need to plan for the unpredictability of another COVID lockdown. What we're also going to talk about is developing a plan and what to plan for. This is something that people get really confused about. What do I plan for? I mean, did any of us know that COVID was going to happen? No, we didn't. But there were certain things that we could have done, or perhaps your business had prepared previously that could support you through that unpredictability. And then the other thing we're going to talk about is how to measure the risk in your business and how to take actions. Not everything can be managed, but it's really about just weighing up the measuring of what is that risk to you and your business. So let's talk about it. Most business owners are born optimists, but positive thinking can only take you so far. I really celebrate SMEs. I think anyone that runs a small business is a brave human. It's a wonderful life to be a small business owner, but it has many challenges, as you will all know. Many of us are optimistic. I'm a realistic optimist. I always look out for the glass half full approach, but I really celebrate you all, because it is a wonderful, very rewarding professional existence to be a business owner, but it has its challenges. And to succeed in business and to stay on course, you also need to think about what could possibly go wrong. So in many of our cases, it could be things like cash flow, or not finding the right staff, or equipment breaking down. All of these things are huge challenges for small business. And cash flow is usually the number one, or not enough time to do your work because you might have too much work. Managing clients, some people really struggle with that. So really it's about in order to stay on course, what could go wrong in your business, and trying to mitigate that. We all need a plan for change, don't we? It's the one thing that's certain in life is change. You know, I know someone once said death and taxes, but change is the only certainty in life. Nothing remains the same. So when we're planning for change, we need to consider a few things. Making change in your business is a necessary part of continuously improving your people, your products, your service, and your performance. Change is going to happen. It might be an unpredictable change or an event, but it will happen. The change could be within you. You might want to change the way you run your business, but it's about planning for that. All businesses will face change at some point. Sometimes change happens to us when we least expect it or want it. Another colleague of mine I spoke to yesterday, I was off-site with her, and she was really frustrated because she said, I've invested all of this time training this new person over the last 3 months, only for them to come to me this week saying, I want to drop my hours and only work 1 day a week. And she said, but I need a full-timer and I can't keep reinvesting all this time in training people who aren't going to be able to commit to the business. So for her, it happened to her. The change was that the staff wasn't available for the hours that she required in order to obligate her business needs. Even if we don't want change, it's important to plan for it, because the only thing that is certain is change. Things are going to happen. And sometimes they're great things. Sometimes they're not so great. So the unpredictability of events and the changing is what we're here to talk about. So let's strap in and talk a little bit more about that. Let's talk about business continuity, because the most important factor of any change or unpredictable event is you want to be able to keep going. You don't want the change or the disruption to be so great that you cannot do your job or your business will stop. I think during early parts of COVID, many of us really had that fear that our businesses would not survive the challenges of COVID. Many businesses were fortunate to receive JobKeeper, which kept them financially buoyant while they sort of did everything they could to either resuscitate their business or keep it moving, particularly people in retail and hospitality. People who had sort of storefront type of businesses really struggled here. So business continuity is a way to help you get your business through challenging times. That's what business continuity is. It's a planning process of creating systems and strategies of prevention and recovery. Now, business continuity doesn't have to be a huge document. That's one thing I really want to sort of clarify something. I'm going to talk about this a bit more further down, but one thing I really want to talk about from the outset is that when you first start your business, I don't know if anyone else has done this, but there's been this, writing these really unwieldy business plans. It's not necessary. Unless you're going for a business loan and it's an actual requirement or a grant funding, any plan has to work for you and your business. So if you've got, if you're writing a 50-page business continuity plan and it's only required for you and most of the knowledge is here, You have created that system in your head of how to do things. The only time I would suggest that you document it is if you have intention to sell your business down the track, because the process of creating systems and strategies to operate your business is actually going to be something that you would sell as part of your business. So generally speaking, most of my processes are in my head, and I would document certain processes for continuity when I'm working with other people. You know, I also probably a risk to my business is if I'm not available, who's going to do the work, because I don't have a process written for that. So these are things that you need to consider. Business continuity plans are about being prepared for disruptions such as coronavirus or natural disasters, so you can keep your business going or quickly get back up on your feet. That's the whole point of it. So a business continuity plan, or a BCB, it helps business to understand what's most important to continue during the disruption. Just excuse me for 1 second, I'm going to cough, and I don't want to cough on here. Sorry about that. It helps us identify resources that we need to keep functions and services running, and prepare to quickly recover as soon as possible and as easily as possible. So you may not have this straight away, but I know that, you know, when COVID hit, we did write out a plan, because you had multiple people we had to communicate with and get things moving. So why are they important? Many small businesses could struggle to keep open or reopen after a disaster such as the economy coming to a sudden halt. So what has been magnificent to see, and this really shows the spirit and entrepreneurialism of the small business community in Victoria and Australia, is that we have bounced back. A lot of businesses who I was really worried about weren't going to make it have bounced back. And a lot of that comes down to planning. They've done a bit of planning. How are we going to move through this? And they may not have documented it, but they've systemized it in their head, and they've communicated it with other people that they work with to continue that. So business continuity planning improves your business resilience and the likelihood your business will survive. So think about all of those restaurants that moved to a really different model of operation in 2020. One business that I know only opens the actual restaurant now for 3 nights a week, because the rest of the nights they're making so much profit from online delivery that they don't require that many people in the restaurant. So that works for them. But they may not have documented a system, but they did in their head. There are many benefits to business continuity management. It may reduce the financial impact of the event or disaster. I keep a financial ledger for our business. I keep a projected forecast as well as an actuals. And this is outside of like our accounting software, because this allows me to plan. It allows me to plan for changes. So the changes might be bringing in new staff or buying a piece of equipment, or we recently moved offices. So, you know, these type of things, that financial projection and planning helps you with your business continuity. Because if something happened all of a sudden, like your computers died in your office and you didn't have a business continuity plan, what would you do? So, and if you didn't have the cash to pay for that. So planning for that is really vital. It also makes sure staff receive adequate support and communications. If anyone has a team or works with people, whether it's contractors or you know, they hire staff in their business, one of the most important things about having staff is making sure that you communicate well with them and that they understand what's expected of them. When you're in a situation such as a pandemic or any other unpredictable event, it's really vital that they understand their role in that, so they can help the business move through and succeed. And it also ensures stakeholder requirements are understood and delivered on. So if you've got contractors or you've got suppliers, it helps them understand what is expected of them too. It also helps your business fulfill its legal and regulatory obligations. So many of you may not be aware of what some of your business legal obligations are, but it's important to understand them, and that you might need to fulfill them even if there is an unpredictable event. It helps you identify and protect critical functions and services. Critical functions or services may be, what is billable? What can you bill? Is it sales? Is it hours working on a project? That may be a critical function, and everything else can wait. So, you might be in an unpredictable event. You might want to work out what is something that can be shelved until you move through that unpredictable event. It allows you to pinpoint services you depend on, such as third-party suppliers, and identify alternatives. I'm aware of a business that imports a very specific product from Asia, and their business all but shut down because their third-party supplier was not able to stock it because of the pandemic last year. So had they not relied solely on this supplier, their business would not have collapsed. But that risk was probably not managed beforehand. So let's talk about the next bit, which is a new business as usual. Planning quickly helps you uncover a new business as usual and supports the prioritization of activities and resources. It helps decide if cash flow, product, staff, or others are your priority. So in some instances, without staff, there's no cash flow. Without product, there's no cash flow. Without all three of those, there's no business. So it helps you identify what is the most important thing. In my business, everyone has a critical role. And if one cog in the wheel was busted, we'd all be in a bit of trouble. So what we have is a risk plan for that. And we do things like train each other. We do training sessions where we can help each other upskill so that in a crisis or an unpredictable event, someone can step in and support the business. Again, not ideal. No one wants an unpredictable event, but it's really important to ensure that you have coverage there. So you can move through in your business. That's something that you've worked so tirelessly to grow, doesn't falter or flounder for too long. So when we talk about the plan, let's talk about what you should cover. At any time, feel free to screenshot this. Again, the replay is available, but if you want to screenshot, please do. So a business continuity plan is about being ready for anything unusual or unexpected that has the potential to disrupt your business operations. So it can be internal events, such as an equipment failure, or an external event like COVID or an earthquake. A continuity plan covers any risks or threats that could disrupt your most important business activities. So I recall probably 2 years ago in our business, 3 computers died in a week. And when you're looking at cash flow in a small business and you go, whoa, that's 15 grand of max, you that's a bit of a stretch. So planning for these unpredictable things, that was a very unprecedented event, losing 3 MacBooks in a week. But you could plan for one, and have like a bit of funding put away to support that. But you need to think about all of those things that will be most important to your business. In many cases, some businesses don't survive without computers. It's a vital tool. So let's talk about the types of disruptions to plan for first. Let's talk about natural disasters. So last year, in Victoria, we had a horrific bushfire. In New South Wales recently, they had a flood. There's tornadoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, landslides, tsunamis, drought, all result in a natural disaster. We can't plan for many of these things. Climate change is indicating to us that we should be considering it quite strongly. So if you live in an area that is prone to those, if you're in a flood zone or a bushfire area, consider what you would do. Such events are generally beyond our control as human beings. So the pandemic, that was kind of the big one, and this is where a lot of people have gone, I really should have planned a bit better, or maybe I need to think more about it. So disturbances in the biological world that can lead to illness and pandemic. So there's COVID, there's swine flu, and there's bird flu. I mean, last year, not only in Victoria were we under the threats of the pandemic, but there was also avian flu in parts of Victoria. And they were contained because we've got fantastic biosecurity measures, but the bird flu could have been a huge, huge thing because we live on an island in Australia and things would have moved. So these are things that if you work in food and you sell chicken, or you know, these are things that can disrupt your supply chain. A tech crisis, I've sort of touched on this before, but a breakdown of a machine or corrupted software or so on gives rise to a technological crisis. Computer network failures, hardware failures, or problems associated with outdated equipment. Cyber attacks or outages. I've had outages, internet outages today that really disrupted my work. So that, you know, one of my things is I have a lot of data on my phone. That is part of my business continuity, is that I have a lot on my phone. If my office doesn't have internet, I work from home, or vice versa. So, and I think that's the thing. We don't have a foolproof internet provider in Australia. The NBN isn't as great as one would hope. So these things, we need to factor them in. PR crisis, public relations. So this is anything that can damage the reputation of a business or can erode trust. Could be negative reviews or media backlash, or it could be the local Facebook community page where someone says something about your business, that they had a bad meal there or they didn't get what they ordered. All of these things can be an unpredictable event that can impact on your business. Work health and safety. Any accidents caused by materials, equipment, or location of your work. Any risk to the health, lives, or safety of clients, patients, providers, or other stakeholders. I had an unpredictable illness about 2 years ago that disrupted our work for a bit because I got sick and I needed to have some surgery, and it meant I was off for a little bit. And it was not something that we had planned in our business. I hadn't planned it at all in my life, but it was a risk to my business because I wasn't there to do the work and the delivery of certain projects that we were contracted to do, and we had a legal obligation to complete. So these are things to consider. An operational crisis, so it could be staff or internal stakeholders issues, strikes, boycotts, insubordination. So if you've worked with colleagues who you might have a bit of tension with, this could really impact on your operations. Industrial relation issues, human error, conflict management, or difficulty filling vacancies. So I mentioned previously this colleague of mine who had spent all this time training, and then she's like, I can't just train people to not be here. They need to actually be here because the investment in training is quite high. Economic or financial crisis, that's another one that we need to consider. So global financial events, interest rate increases, cash flow shortages, customers not paying, or rapid growth or rising costs. These are really, really strong things to consider in your business. Lack of funds to pay creditors and other parties. Who's been in a position where a bill comes into your business and you go, I haven't got the cash for it? I mean, that is terrifying because you go, well, if I don't pay that supplier, then this will happen. So these are incidents that can happen in your business that you need to factor in. And a lot of people factor in cash flow before everything else. But without people and product, quite often, the cash is second to that. So suppliers, failure or interruptions to your supply chain for products or raw materials. So we were talking about avian flu. If something was to happen there and you sell fried chicken as part of your business, what do? What if you have a product that relies on an international widget? There's something made overseas, and without that widget, your product doesn't exist. These are issues with supply chain. So let's talk about when things don't go to plan. You may not be able to predict every kind of incident that could threaten your business, but you can develop a plan that covers a range of incidents. So we've talked about the things that you could plan for, and you could do some scenario modeling in your head and say, well, if I didn't do this, what would happen? I mean, you know, the internet one is a big one, and it's only through discovery that the internet glitches at certain times that I've just got so much data on my phone that I just log straight back into whatever I'm doing, tethering to my phone. So let's begin to do that plan, okay? Your business continuity plan is usually part of a business plan and should contain all the information you need to get your business running again after an incident or crisis. It helps set goals and priorities or pivoting your business for survival. The size and complexity of your business continuity plan will depend on your business. It will typically include a risk management plan with business impact analysis, an incident response plan with details of when to use the plan, the incident response team, communications during and after an incident, and a contact list, and a recovery plan. I'm going to reiterate this. The size and complexity of your plan will depend on your business. Because we're all small businesses here, it doesn't need to be unwieldy. So let's talk about a written plan. It doesn't have to be cumbersome. When you see those words like business continuity plan, risk analysis, no, you don't need to have an MBA to do this. This can be a one-pager, a checklist, or a template document you find online. That's it. Here's some examples. I just Googled. Do's and don'ts, or a list of emergency checklist. Could look like that. Doesn't even have to be well designed. This is something that threats to your organization. It could be this, or it could be a very, very comprehensive one. It could be something that's on the back wall. When these are some other things. So what would it be? So action, raise alarm, or whoever sees or finds the disaster first. What's the relevant contact number? Could just be a list like this. When this is just see this date here, this is one of our crisis comms plans that we pulled together during COVID. So 15th of March. Well, look, hey, I created this 12 months ago, almost to the day. So it's here, emergency response, close office on the 15th of March. So 12 months ago that we did that. Staff at home from the 15th of March. So we broke it into columns: assessment and monitoring, resources, so personnel, financial, business continuity and marketing, and review and learn. So we went back and looked at what was happening, because we have a team of people that we work with. So we closed the office, the staff are home from that. We spoke to our accountant about projection modelling because we wanted to work out, and this was pre-announcements about JobKeeper. The business continuity was emergency response and billable work only because everyone was homeschooling. So we really broke this down to simplify it. So emails, phone calls, social media. We removed all sales content. Content had to be service driven, and we removed anything that was pushy about sales. We looked at operations staff working remotely. We built in a daily work in progress. We did some ergo assessments, so ergonomical assessments of people, and we established some working from home protocols. So because a lot of people were working from home and homeschooling, we could not call them anytime we wanted to. Well, we could, but we just wanted to be respectful of people's boundaries, and there was a lot of fear at that time. We also did some projection forecasting so we could deliver on projects. So at the end of projects is usually when we build a portion of it. So it made sure that we had payments coming through. And we looked at things like staff to work on response and billable only this week. Things that we needed to look at as staff felt very overwhelmed, and we needed to modify the hours. And it was because people were homeschooling. And, if everyone can recall that unpredictable event when everyone went into a pretty hard lockdown last year, this is it. That's what we did. One page. And then each week we kind of updated it. And so if we have a rolling lockdown, we have a blueprint now to go and review it and go for it. I've put some links here because you don't have to create your own cumbersome unwieldy template. You can just do like a little grid like we did and do it yourself, or you can go here. Xero has some fantastic guides and templates for business continuity. If you use Xero accounting software, they do have some great tools and resources. So there's one there. The Victorian government has business continuity plan templates as well, which you can download. And the Queensland government. Queensland government has fantastic tools. I've used them a lot this year. So yeah, they have really, really good stuff. So these are just the best, easiest ones I've found, and I just thought I'd put them up there as links for you to go and explore. So what to put in it? So flesh it out with the relevant stakeholders. So if you have a business partner, or if you have a team, if your husband or wife, or, flesh it out with them, because sometimes other people have insights that you don't see. Key employees can provide insights into available resources and potential hurdles. So make sure that you engage people in this process. If it's just you, if you're a micro business, bounce it off a colleague or a friend. Say, look, I'm trying to just put together a plan because I wasn't quite sure what to do. Or using these mentoring sessions. I mean, one of the things last year, I undertook hundreds of hours of mentoring with SMEs through this ASBAS program. And a lot of it was helping people plan to get through it, things that they hadn't considered. What are the potential hurdles? How do you focus on the priorities? So you might find that talking to someone else might help you illuminate things that you missed out on when you did your first cut. So risk management, business impact analysis, incident response and recovery. And this source is from the business.gov.au website, who also provide us the ASBAS program. So this is what they recommend to put in the plan. Again, you don't have to be unwieldy or cumbersome. It could be something really simple. So let's talk through this. So the risk management plan, this helps you identify your critical business activities. It assesses the risk to your business and strategies to minimize the impacts that you could have. So the anecdote I gave you before about me being in hospital, one of the things that we've done to mitigate that risk of one of us not being able to fulfill our job is we upskill each other. So we both have the skills, or our team have our skills to be able to step into each other's shoes and deliver the project. Business impact analysis. So identify the activities of your business that are key to its survival. So if you make $1,500 a day in your cafe making coffees, but you don't make that much on food, think about what's the most important one, particularly during lockdown. Most people stepped up for, and then 1 hour a day, they stepped up for daily coffee or their takeaway. So think about what are critical activities for your business. Incident response plan. So it contains all the information you need to respond immediately before and after an incident or crisis. So this could be contact lists. I'm going to call my accountant first. Who needs to know? I'm going to call the staff and let them know that they can't come in today because there's a fire. And a recovery plan. It outlines the steps you'll need to take to get your business running again after an incident or crisis. So risk management. Let's talk about that. You can develop a risk management plan by addressing these steps. Identify the risk, assess the risk, manage the risk, and monitor and review it. So identifying. Undertake a review of your business to identify potential risks. Some useful techniques for identifying risks are: evaluate each function in your business and identify anything that could have a negative impact on your business. So let's go back to the cafe. If your coffee machine broke down, or you only had one barista, or you can't get milk, or the coffee supplier is on a boat somewhere and has not been allowed into Australia, that's a risk to your business. Review your records, such as safety incidents or complaints, to identify previous issues. So if you found that people have made complaints about your business and you haven't addressed that, that is a risk to your business. Consider any external risks that could impact on your business. So we were talking about some natural disasters, or we were talking about, things like bushfire. What could happen? Brainstorm with your staff. Make sure that they understand what the risks are. ask yourself what if type questions. What if we went into another lockdown and I couldn't pay my rent on my building and all the equipment was in the office and I had to stay home with the kids? And ask yourself these what if scenarios. This is how you can identify risks. And previously we talked about the type of risks that you could consider. Play those what if scenarios, and then you'll start identifying some gaps. Many of us in small business aren't guilty as charged. You know, we don't plan as effectively as we could, and we sort of just fly by the seat of our pants. And when something happens, we go, oh, okay, I should have maybe thought about that. A great way to identify it and it's to help safeguard your business is to understand beforehand, identify it. So think when we're doing that, when we're doing what if you lost power? What if your premises were damaged and not accessible? So what if a fire ripped through there? Or what if your suppliers went out of business overnight? They went into liquidation and you couldn't access stock that you've paid for? What would you do? What about if there's a natural disaster in your area? So I live in central Victoria and we, we're always on alert during summer because of bushfires. So even though I live in the township, not in a country sort of rural area, we're always wondering what's going to happen if a fire comes through here. What happens if one of your key staff members resigns or was injured? Or what happens if your computer system was hacked? Or one of your important business documents were destroyed? What if? Just play those scenarios because then you can manage it. So this is about assessing the risk. This is the next bit. So you've got the what ifs. So you can assess each identified risk by establishing the likelihood or the frequency of it occurring and the consequence or the impact if it occurred. So the tip here is the level of risk is calculated using this formula. Level of risk equals the likelihood by the consequence. So how likely is it that your key staff member will leave? What is the impact to your business if they do? That is how you assess the risk. How likely is it the power will go out in my house today? What is the consequence if it does? Well, the consequence is this webinar I'm going to have to go do in my driveway and use the backup of my power. And but that's what you do. That's how you assess the risk. To determine the likelihood and consequence of each risk, it's useful to identify how each risk is currently controlled. I'm probably using language that might be a bit like, I don't know about controlling risk. You're doing it every day. There's risk in business every day, and you're just probably managing it quite reactively or instinctively, or you've lived it before, so you know what to do. But this is just really about determining it in a more mindful way. So elimination. So if your computer keeps breaking down and you haven't replaced it, maybe you need to eliminate that risk. Substitution, replace it. Engineering controls. It could be administrative controls. It could be personal protective equipment. A risk analysis matrix can help you to determine the level of risk. So think about what control you can put in place to fix it or to assess it. So managing risk, this involves developing cost-effective options to deal with them. So avoid the risk. You can't afford your rent, stay at home. You don't want to have a office to go to or a retail. These might be just ways that you can do it. So completely avoid the risk. Reducing it. So, in my business world, one of the things that we've done is we co-share our office with another business. So it's reducing our risk to be able to cover all of the expenses and maintenance that come with leasing a commercial property. You can transfer the risk. Ways that you can transfer the risk is through insurance. Making sure that you have adequate insurance is really important. And accepting the risk. So one of the ways that we accept risk is you go, you know what, I'm going to hire that staff member. They're so amazing. Even though they said they don't want to be here for too long because they've got other aspirations, they're so good, I'll accept the risk. So thinking about it in that context. So when you avoid the risk, change your business process, equipment or material to achieve a similar outcome but with a much less risk. That's how we avoid it. all of us want to avoid risk. It's not entirely possible, particularly in small business, particularly when we've got unpredictable events and we really want to make sure our business is safe. We can't avoid all the risks. When we reduce the risk, if it can't be avoided, reduce its likelihood and consequence. So we went back to that formula. This could include staff training or documenting procedures and policies, complying with legislation. So if there's legislative requirements around what you do, make sure that you're complying with that. So if you're working in like an industry where you're service delivery, there might be some legislative requirements that you need to obligate. Maintain your equipment, practicing emergency protocols, keeping records safely secured, and contingency planning. So contingency planning, you know, we all went into contingency planning last year during COVID. Contingency plan, businesses could continue because people went home. They worked from home. That is a contingency plan. Transferring the risk. So transfer some or all the risk to another party through contracting, insurance, partnerships, or joint ventures. I am in a business partnership because I can't do all the work myself. Also, a problem shared is a problem halved. For me, it is a transfer of the risk that I don't wear at all, because the risk of me not being able to deliver everything, I've got someone else I can share that with. Accept the risk. So in some cases, this might be your only option. This is where you acknowledge that the potential loss from a risk is not great enough to warrant spending money to avoid it. So, it's, you know, the anecdote we had about the, you know, don't want to lose that great staff member, we can't afford to have 2 staff on. So you go, you know what, I'll just accept that one day they might leave. Monitoring and review risk. So you should regularly monitor and review your risk management plan and ensure the control measures and insurance cover is adequate. So if you, for example, have insurance coverage and you're only insured for a certain amount and then your last year's amount of profit was double what it was the year that you got your insurance, that's potentially a risk to your business because you're underinsured. So you need to review that as part of your risk management plan. Discuss it with your insurer to check your coverage. Insurance is really important. I know it's painful and expensive, but it's there to protect you, and it is a great way to safeguard your business from an unpredictable event. Got some final thoughts. This has gone incredibly quickly today. One of the things that I want you to understand is don't jeopardize all your hard work by failing to take account of all the risks. It's really, when you're so busy doing the work, it's hard to think about these things that might not ever happen. Have a weekly meeting with yourself or the people that you work with and think about all the things that you want to plan. We have a section in our work in progress meetings every week, which is about operations. And part of our operations is this kind of stuff. And some of it's a bit boring and, you know, you go, God, do I really need to think about this? Well, what we really want to do is make sure that we can protect our business because we've invested so much into it, you know, and it's something that I'm really passionate about is the success of my business and keeping our staff employed and still engaging with all these other fantastic businesses that I get to engage with through this job. You've got to take into account the risks. Every business is different, so are all the risks that they face. Not everything that I mentioned in this presentation is actually applicable to you. So don't feel that you have to conflate or overexert yourself in preparedness. This is just some things for you to consider. And maybe jotting things down. It could be Post-it notes on the back wall of your office toilet. It doesn't have to be an unwieldy document. So I said we had a 1-pager and we updated it weekly. And we had work in progress meetings to manage risk. Absorbing the shocks of change for unstable small businesses comes down to planning. So there's a lot of shock when an event happens. And, you know, the stories about people losing their business is really heartbreaking. In many cases, it might not be from lack of planning, but it's one thing that you can do to try and safeguard your business. So it's about planning and thinking about that. I've got time for a few questions. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat and we can answer them. Otherwise, yeah, we'll wait here for a few minutes and answer some questions. Just a reminder that you are brought here today by the ASBAS Digital Solutions program, and that's brought to us by the Australian government. So I mentioned them previously. Business.gov.au has some incredible resources. The Melbourne Innovation Centre that has brought us together today, a wonderful team there. They've also got a really great website that's full of resources and events. Please go check it out. They've just invested a heap of time in making it really special for users. Again, up to 4 hours of paid mentoring. If you haven't taken this opportunity, please do. Even myself as a mentor have taken the opportunity up to be mentored by someone else. And it was an incredibly invaluable experience. And I can't believe that the barrier to entry is as low as $25 because it was the most valuable 2 hours of my time. So take it up. It's amazing. You don't have to come to me, but there is plenty of other incredible mentors available. My name is Lee Sandwith. I am from a business called The Good Hands, proudly regional based, working globally, and love mentoring and working with small business in Victoria. I'm deeply passionate about it. We are the lifeblood of the economy. We're all doing a great job and everyone is amazing. I think small business owners are fantastic. So if there's no other questions, or no, it's a very quiet room tonight, we might wrap it up. But I really want to thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to presenting to you again. I think there's some more stuff in the next day or so. I'll be presenting again in another week. But without further ado, I'll wish you a good night. Thanks again, everyone. All the best.